In an ever-changing world that's all about staying connected, building connections, and seeing where the next collaboration takes a marketing campaign. From an initial brief to the follow-through, what paths are going to make a campaign success more than a possibility? Hi, I'm Brett Marchand, CEO of Plus Company. This is Partners in Possibility. This season, we've taken a journey through the realms of marketing, exploring everything from the ingenious Superbowl Pregrain series to the unforgettable, award-winning Cheetle and Cheetle campaign. We've also delved into the exciting world of AI integrations that are reshaping our daily lives, at work and at home. From game-changing strategies to innovative ideas, here are some of the most inspiring and insightful moments of the season. Let's dive in. First up, we reflect on the ingenious, multi-award-winning Cheetos campaign, Cheetle and Cheadle. So you've got this giant hand. It's got a statue of a hand. It's got the actual Cheetle on the fingers. It's in Cheetle, Alberta. By the way, probably helpful that it's spelt Cheetle the same way as Don Cheadle.
We did think about the Cheetle Trinity of Don Cheadle, Cheetle statue in Cheetle, Alberta, but it was a bit of a moonshot, to be honest. And again, sometimes I think as Canadian marketers, we need to give ourselves permission to dream that someone like, War Machine Don Cheadle, Academy Award Don Cheadle would actually interact. And lo and behold, Jimmy Kimmel kind of brokered that for us. And I think that, again, that's a testament to the cultural resonance of the product and the execution that truly in an earned fashion, no brand integration, no paid partnership. It showed up on Jimmy Kimmel.
Do you know that the name of the Cheeto powder, like that orange dust, is called Cheetle?
I do know that.
But it's spelled differently. It's two E's and a T.
Yeah.
This is a sculpture that they have in Cheetle.
I posed for that.
There's 83 people, and they all gathered around to look at this, which is on tour right now.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. It's a masterpiece.
It really is.
What it is. I hope that makes it to your house. I mean, that would be. If I were to commission a replica of that, would you put it on your lawn?
When you came by, yeah.
Don Cheadle is here. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
It was just a really brilliantly simple idea to get this thought across, but it allowed the consumers to really take it on and showcase it to other people as almost something they discovered versus, receiving an ad. And so I think that's what made it so unique.
I know when we talked about this initially, internally, we were like, does it need a big logo? Everyone need to know?
Yeah.
And, with your team's guidance, we all had trust that this notion of a hand holding a Cheeto and the Cheetle was iconic enough. And not many brands can do that, frankly. Not many brands have the cachet to be able to go out with something like that unbranded and get instant kind of credit for it. It's amazing to see Canada showing up on the global stage in a way that is probably leading even the US team in terms of this type of activity. And we've gotten trophies and attention from all the kind of big international shows, both in the PR world like PR Week and the Sabres, but also One Show, Clio's, D&AD, things like that. But what Justin and I were just talking earlier, what's really interesting is it's not just getting recognized in a PR stream, but it's really getting recognized in out of home, in brand experience and activation, in regional effectiveness, return on budget, overcoming challenges, things like that, which, I think is really interesting and credit to the project.
You never kind of set out to win an award. And I think if that had been the brief, we wouldn't have gotten to such a strong idea. And
listen, I talk to a lot of clients often, and I used to be a client for a long time, who say that awards don't matter. And they're not the all and end all, let's be honest. But I always say to marketers, well, if your campaigns aren't winning in international shows, that means they are not standing out against a whole bunch of other work, which means they are not standing out in a very, very crowded social media, online market right now, which means they're not getting noticed. So, if you win the kinds of awards that this campaign's winning, it means that people are recognizing it and it's standing out, which is gotta helps, the brand and sales and a bunch of other things. Next, how a Super Bowl winner helped this campaign score on a Super Bowl classic.
As the team was trying to solve for how do we hack Super Bowl? How do we enter the surround without paying big dollars for a in-game ad? This idea of pre-graining came about. And the insight behind that is all about the day of Super Bowl is the highest grain consumption day of the year, but in liquid form.
Yes.
Hops, barley, malt. You get the idea.
I used to work for Molson. I know.
Yeah, there you go. And so we thought, well, wait a minute. We are an iconic 145-year-old brand that stands for whole grain goodness. How do we enter this grain consumption moment? And hence pre-graining for the big game was born. So that's kind of the genesis of the campaign. I think sometimes within our industry, there's this bias for new and reinventing the wheel. In this case, I think we did absolutely the right thing, which was take something that we had already begun to build and make it even stronger.
There's an interesting point that you just made, Kristen, which is you build equity over time, right? And so often, both on the client side and on the agency side, you want to move on to the next idea and start from scratch and scrap whatever you've done. But there's real value, I think, because when consumers don't have to work so hard to figure out, who is it and what are you talking about, then they can really absorb, what the new idea or the new product or whatever it is. And it's actually easier to be entertaining instead of harder to be entertaining.
We would hand an idea to Eli and he would just run with it. He would just dive in and indulge. And of course, he would say the lines that we wrote him, but then he's a great improv actor. In one of the little pieces, one of the scenarios, he jumps on this large, oversized canister of Quaker Oats. And as he lands on it, the whole thing collapses and he falls to the ground. No crash pad, no stuntman or anything. And I go, Eli, thanks for doing that. Really, really appreciate it. And he was like, all day you've been giving me notes about how to eat, how to lift up my spoon, how to look in the mirror. And then the one time I jump and fall on my butt, you're like, perfect, done.
Let's reflect on how human creativity is integrating AI into our daily lives.
The speed and adoption of ChatGPT is unlike anything we've ever seen. It's easy enough. My parents are using it. It's that easy that if you know how to text on a phone, you can use ChatGPT. For things to reach critical mass and have that rate of adoption, they have to have a simple, clean, easy interface, which is really what ChatGPT allowed to happen. And it felt like it was overnight, even though it took years and years, obviously, to build.
I always get the question, how is Mechanism using AI? And a lot of the times my answer is in ways that you'll never see. We're using it as a back-end tool to help make our brief stronger so we can question our own thoughts better. We're using it in a way to analyze data faster. Humans are not great at looking at large data sets and making inferences very quickly. We take a lot of time to be trained on that data, to look through a 1,000-line spreadsheet and get to a specific idea. But computers are really good at that. They're really good at analyzing really large amounts of data. And so one of the things that we're trying to do inside of our agency, inside of Plus Company, is look for opportunities where AI can be better at doing computer things and allow us to have more opportunities for humans to do the things that humans are good at, like presenting.
The current opportunities are really in assisting creatives. AI has become the new blank page, right? You get a kickstart in your walking or shower concepting. It speeds things up. So, it's not good enough that you're using it, but it's good enough that it cracks writer's block or art director's block. It gives you something to push off of. And so that's the current real use, is that it's a place to start.
When you're a copywriter as a profession, you have that taste. You have that innate ability to see something in front of you and know that's good. And I don't know if computers know something is good. They just know that it was selected over 51% of the time as the correct answer.
Right.
And it doesn't understand why. It just knows mathematically that's what it should choose. If you have an open mindset, if you're curious, if you like learning new things and new technologies, then you have nothing to worry about. And you will only be more efficient at your work. You will only be able to optimize your work better as these technologies start to come online and as companies start to figure out ways that they can implement them correctly and ethically. Then I don't think anyone should be concerned. My favorite quote that people are throwing around is, you won't lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody using AI. And I think that's totally true.
We're creating sort of that center of excellence for AI, but ultimately it's going to touch every aspect in every department. It's almost when you used to think of an agency as just digital or just social. And all of a sudden you're like, well, everything lives on social platforms, or everything's digital now. That seems what's happening with AI, where is it going to be a department? No, it's going to be woven into every single department in how that department is going to use AI to, save time, deliver, better quality, take on more clients or more projects. Yeah. So it's going to be in kind of across every, service line, but it's going to be used in different ways.
Check out clips from our conversation on the powerful partnership of AI and data.
We know about all the challenges to filling out that story. Data that exists behind walled gardens, privacy regulations, low quality telemetry, just missing pieces. AI or generative AI can solve the puzzle and predict what that journey looks like. And now we have a building block to be able to tell all of these combined stories about audience, creative, media, timing, different KPIs, the journey through the funnel, and do so in a way that allows us to build technologies that answer the questions we have today based on how mature we are as data and AI sort of organizations, but also answer the questions of the future that we don't know, because we've built it around the customer, who's always going to be the building block of the marketplace.
The first thing you're going to see is a lot of discomfort. The folks who are experienced in the field are going to say, I would never, ever do that. And it's going to take a moment, I think, for everybody to eat a piece of humble pie or just take a breath and say, okay, maybe I need to try something a little bit different. So there's going to be a lot of discomfort at first. But I do think over time, what it's going to do is change the way in which we fundamentally make decisions. We're going to be able to your conversation earlier, Brett, around, half of advertising works, we just don't know which half. There might be a point where, in fact, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We don't necessarily know what it does. We just need to know that it's working. So how do we think differently about the structures that we have in place, the way in which we make decisions, and being okay with a little bit of risk?
I remember that tension as a client. Okay, that is a really interesting idea, but oh my God, that's risky. And this idea of being able to test and learn and use data to verify that it's going to work, it's not going to be a waste of money. It can be incredibly empowering, I think, for both sides, right?
And then even if there's a situation where it's truly first to market and there's not really a way that we can reliably predict or scenario plan around it. Okay, so we'll do this over here, and then everything else that we're doing, we're going to make sure and scenario plan and predict that we're going to make sure that this stuff, this 80% or 90% of what we're doing over here will get you your goals. So rest assured, this part over here that we can absolutely, predict with a lot of assuredness is going to get you where you need to go. So we can actually now take these dollars and try something new, and it's just gravy. So there's sort of a sense of common security on both sides.
Let's review our conversation on the value of diverse perspectives to drive innovation in the world of marketing.
Any company, any organization is going to have to step up the game around inclusion. How do I communicate to you that I do value inclusion? Well, in the past, I would say that companies could kind of get away with bare minimum. We just got to show something here and we're good. But that's not good enough today. Today, it has to be placed with a real stake behind it. It enables you to further broadening the discussion around who is represented in the United States today. It's a sign. This idea, this notion that this is backlash. It's too woke. Ask yourself what would happen if one did that. You do a campaign where there's no diversity in it.
Right.
Like, just if you visualize it, it's simply about where the world is heading. These are forces that no one person, no one country can stop. These are massive forces that have been in the making for decades. All new ideas are really only just combinations of existing ideas. Something that already exists with some other concept. Through that, we create something new. In my book, I talk about all kinds of examples like this. The opening example is around an architect that designs this building in Harare, the capital of Zimbabwe, which uses 90% less energy than any other building around it. And the way he did it was by drawing from design principles the termites had when they built their mounds on the African savanna. So you combine your two concepts and creating a new one. If the ideas that you combine are diverse, if they're very different, if they're unexpected, well, then you greatly enhance the probability that the new idea is innovative. This is where we get a concept like termites in architecture. And the way it works is this. Whenever you approach any given problem or opportunity, there's all kinds of assumptions that you have built in as to what you need to do to pursue those. Yeah. And you may not even reflect upon it, right? And so you don't really examine what a solution could look like outside of that assumption. So for instance, let's say that you try to come up with a new restaurant. One of the assumptions that you might make about that is that the restaurant should serve food. Because obviously, what else does a restaurant do? It serves food. So you don't even question that assumption. Reversing of assumptions means that you list out some of those assumptions, and then you reverse those and see how you can make the idea happen anyway. What would a restaurant look like if you can't serve food?
Right.
And all of a sudden now, a whole host of new ideas might come up.
Most recently, we discussed the groundbreaking Sick Kids Versus campaign that reminded us all that sickness does not equal weakness.
Equally important is the authenticity of the campaign, because you can't make this stuff up, or if you do, you're telling the wrong story.
Yeah.
And when you had parents applauding the creative and people sort of openly weeping at every single creative piece that we would put out, for them it was genuine and authentic. And one of the things we do at Sick Kids is we make sure that every piece of creative is tested against sort of the parent reaction to it. The authenticity will easily get exposed if you're not really telling the true story.
Yeah, the BS meter comes out quickly.
Exactly.
Right?
The one story that we featured on Grace, who was one of the 20% of children who didn't overcome her cancer diagnosis, it just so happens that the family was friends with Haley Wickenheiser.
Captain of the women's hockey team.
Captain of the women's hockey team, and a wonderfully decent person who was training to be a doctor, actually, herself. And it just so happens that Haley was best friends with Ryan Reynolds, and Ryan saw the work, and he all of a sudden said, "Tell me how I can help." Every time we would put a new ad out there, Ryan would be sending it to his network, and it wasn't before long I was getting donations in from places like Iceland and Korea and French Polynesia, and
I remember thinking, this is amazing, this is transformative. I hope they have the guts to do it. And you had the guts to do it.
You have to have the courage of your convictions. And with Cassette's help, we did a social audit of the reaction around the campaign. And for every negative comment, there were over 10,000 that were positive.
Yeah. Listen, it was copied a lot, and a lot of other people have tried to do something similar, not to the same effect, obviously. It's won lots of awards internationally, as you know, won a Cannes, it won everything. And I think in many ways, it's actually fundamentally changed people's point of view about how to do great cause advertising.
Yes.
You should be very proud of. Thank you for listening to Partners in Possibility. We hope you've enjoyed this retrospective episode where we've revisited some of the season's brightest sparks. Stay tuned for more insights and inspiration on upcoming episodes as we continue to explore the ever-evolving landscapes of marketing and innovation. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries, seeking new horizons, and finding those extraordinary possibilities in every partnership.